Hi, this is Toni Wade, the Compassionate Investor. And losing a job can be devastating. Trust me, I know what it's like. And I'm going to share with you firsthand what it was like for me when I lost my job, but how I was able, through that pain, to find my purpose and propel myself to the next level of being the compassionate investor. So the day I got fired, I remember it so clearly. Now, this was during a time when I had just given birth to my son. He wasn't even 2 months old. And right when I gave birth to him, they actually had to take him from me immediately and take him into NICU because he had a birth defect. So during the entire time, I was not with my child. I was there at the hospital, and then I would have to leave. I would go to the hospital, but he wasn't with me and able to bond with me. So I remember calling in to my boss, and I was like, and it was on a Friday. I was due to be back to work on Monday. And that Friday, I think we had just gotten him like the day before. And I was like, is there any way you could just give me just one more week of leave so that I can be here and bond with my child? And I just remember how cold it was, as if, nope, you need to come back and negotiate contracts with the firefighters. So I went in reluctant on that Monday. And I remember crying, thinking to myself, how much I wanted to be with my son. So for the entire month of February, I cried every day. And the moment that it was time to leave, I left. And within less than 30 days, they fired me. And I just remember how I felt that day that they were firing me. Because if you could imagine, I had just given birth. I'm the breadwinner. I'm the one predominantly responsible for my child. And to then now have all of my means taken from me, like, I was devastated. And I remember how they brought in security, and it was that morning they were like, we're letting you go. And by the way, here's security. They're going to watch you pack your things. So as that was happening, I was just thinking to myself how I felt. I had given my entire life to this company, and to have them strip that from me, the livelihood that I was counting on to carry me through taking care of my family and my child. So while that was happening, I just remember I was listening to gospel music, because I always play gospel music every day at work, and I just turned it up. Now, I didn't turn it up disrespectfully, but I turned it up because I needed that encouragement at that moment, because I felt like if I did not have that encouragement that moment, I was going to crumble. So as I was packing my things, security was standing right there at my door. I'm just packing, just praising God, just packing and praising God, because I was not going to let them see me broken. And I just remember thinking that, don't let them see you broken. So as I packed my things, I left the building. And as I was smiling, walking out, I got in my car. And when I got off of the premises, and I couldn't even pull over fast enough, I pulled over to the side into the median. And that's when I found myself screaming. And I was screaming because in my mind in that moment, I didn't know what to do. I felt like I had lost everything. That's what it felt like. And as I think about that experience, because I still can even feel what it felt like today, but by going through that devastation, it was allowing me to then, because it was after I just started regrouping and I pulled over, I said, wait a minute. And I started regrouping, because once I got home, I started realizing, well, wait a minute. It's not as bad as I thought it was. The devastation of not having a job was devastating, at least knowing you have a consistent income coming in. But it wasn't even occurring to me what I was really already prepared for. I already had a safety net that was already in place, because as I started looking at what it was that was going on and processing that, I started looking at, I got enough money coming in to cover some major things. Because as I started looking at my bills, I started looking at everything that I knew I needed to pay. That was my focus, focus on the things that you need to pay, that have to be paid to be able to sustain. I call that my sustainability number. So after I determined my sustainability number, I was like, I actually do have enough to to get some things done to be able to go from there. And as I was going through that experience and just detailing specifically what I needed to do, I then was like, okay, we can do this. Where most people will go and start dusting off their resumes and seeing who they can go apply with. I wasn't doing any of that because I recognized I got a lot of things already in place that I didn't even know I had. I had a very strong base as it came to some income coming in, not what I was used to getting on my job, but I had enough coming in where I could think through, okay, what do I need to do next? I already had a strong prayer life because I believe in prayer. So the things that, I believed in affirmations and spending time with God and meditating. So I was already doing some things that helped sort of sustain me. So it was just a matter of fine tuning those things that I was already doing so that I could be better at moving myself forward. So as I started going through the motion of figuring out what to do, because it wasn't really me figuring it out, I trusted God to start showing me. So he already showed me how I was already doing well in real estate. So now it was a matter of how can we now build on top of that, because we had a strong base already in place that I didn't even know I had. So I started perfecting the things that I already had in place, start building some structure and procedures, which now as I think about leaving Boeing, it was the best thing that I had going for me when I was there, because I learned so much about business acumen that I would have never gotten. So I encourage you, if you're ever in a position and you have a very great job, learn everything you can from that job, because those are the things that you're going to build upon. So I was building on skill sets that I had already started building on before they fired me, because I had a very strong acumen. I understood how to build infrastructure. So I started taking the things that I had learned from them and applying it to the business that we were creating. So as we were building that model, we were putting together strong goals, SMART goals, so that we could be able to build the company up, making sure we had a strong team. Like I started doing the things necessary to make sure I had a solid business to build with. So those are the things that I took from that experience that then made me even better at having my own business. So then as I started building that acumen and creating my infrastructure and building a company, through all of that, I started identifying where God really wanted me. See, I've always been a lover of teaching. I've taught since I was like 12 years old. I've been teaching. So my love for teaching and my love for real estate, it started like taking me to a place where I was educating individuals and talking about, at that time, home ownership, and talking about how you could help people get into that space, talking about how you build your credit up. So I went down this path that started identifying the things that I liked and the things that I didn't like. The things that I didn't like, I pushed them off my table. I just started gravitating to the things that God was showing me as I was in prayer and meditation on a regular basis on where I needed to go. So through all of that, through losing the job, I was able to identify specific things that I could then apply to my business to propel me into my purpose. So as I started building that, and here that was probably after 2 years, because I had done some work in lease options, because lease options allows you to do some teaching. I was educating people on how to build their credit. I was doing some wonderful things, creating partnerships with people so that we could do that work. But I wasn't staying there. I kept saying there's more. There's more to where God has me. So he still had me working in my passion, but fully putting me into my purpose, like though that path took some time. So as we got a little closer and I started seeing what I started seeing and working with those who had become unhoused, that's when I really found myself getting into purpose. Because it took me a few years when COVID happened to really understand what people were going through. See, when I lost everything and how devastated I felt, kicked in the stomach, when I started working as at a homeless shelter and running the homeless shelter, God started showing me. He started showing me this could have been you. He started showing me, look, how I prepared you. I prepared you and gave you a safety net. But what did they have? They didn't have a safety net. And look what happened by them not having a safety net. That was not to look down on them. It was showing me where he was wanting me to go. Because as I started recognizing they didn't have a safety net, then I was like, okay, well, what can I do to help them get a safety net? So then I started doing work at the shelter and evolving them to a place where I wanted to show them. I wanted to give them what God had given me. But there was a disconnect. There was a lot that had happened to them, right? There was a lot that had happened to them in their lives that takes a lot of time to overcome. Now, not that God cannot heal it, because God can do all things, but the trauma and the abuse and the drug addiction and the incarceration and the experiencing being unhoused, all how that impacted. Like, can you imagine the layers that individuals who are unhoused in vulnerable populations have to overcome, right? That's a lot to overcome. So as I think about, because when I did the shelter, and that was only 4 years ago that I started doing that, we still weren't able to get the traction I thought I wanted to get, right? For individuals to get this safety net built up. It was almost, I wouldn't say too late, it just takes a little more time. So now we fast forward to where we are today. And that's why I know I am fully in my purpose now. I know that there are individuals that I can reach to be able to help them build safety nets before life happens. And that's where I'm at today, is at a place where I can find individuals who might not have dealt with as much trauma, might not have dealt with addiction, might not have dealt with all these other things. My goal is to catch you soon enough before you feel what life can do, because life is powerful, right? So my goal is to be able to help those who, before life happens to you, to give you some nuggets, give you some things that you can use to take you to the next level so that you can experience what it likes to have a safety net. Because when you need that, you're going to need that. Now, I can't predict what happens with people, but I do know life happens to all of us. We all experience something in life that will challenge us and get us to a place where we're experiencing life. So if I can help you through the things that I can teach you to show you how to overcome that, that's why I'm here. And God showed me all of that by allowing me to be fired. I can say God got me fired. I'll say that. God got me fired because I probably would not have left Boeing had the opportunity arise. I don't know. I had to be pushed out. But by pushing me out, I was able to fly. Imagine that bird, because that's what mother birds do with their baby birds. When it's time for them to fly, what do? They push them out the nest. And when they push them out the nest, what do? They fly. And that's what God did for me when I lost my job, because He allowed for me to be able to find my purpose. So if you'd like to hear more of the information that I have to share, definitely subscribe to my channel. Also, give me some comments. I'd love to hear from you and respond to you related to my experience with losing my job. And if you've had those things happen to you, I would love to hear that as well. But I look forward to helping you create your safety net. Because when you can create your safety net, you are more in control of what will happen to you in your future. And then if you choose to leave your job, if that is your desire, or if you're pushed out like I was pushed out, you'll be able to fly like I did. So get out there and transform the world, because transformed lives transform the world.